So one of the questions I get asked the most on this game is, what is the best sword? What should I use? What are your favorite swords to use, etc., right? So I thought I'd just make a video explaining what the best PvP swords to use are currently, as of update 21, especially with fruits like Portal and Rumble. So, also for the sake of simplicity, I'm only going to be including the weapons that I think are the best or top of the meta in PvP. These other swords, while they are good, they aren't really competing with these other ones, and the true triple Yoru isn't even a weapon that most players can obtain. So, alright, so first up on the list we have the Dragon Trident, and this weapon's broken. I mean, it is like arguably one of the, if not the best sword in the game. For those who don't know, let me just show why this weapon is so good. So the second move on this weapon is a giant AoE Ken break that also shoots out bubbles to the side. Now if you were to hit someone into these bubbles with the first move, it would do more damage, right? That's just the damage potential of the sword alone. Then we get into the Ken break. This move, if any of the bubbles hit or the center of the ring hits, it also Ken breaks. Now, if someone is above you, and I'll play a clip of this in a second, but if someone is above you, right? Like say they're just air camping, jumping around in the air, right? And you aim above them, it sends them straight down to the ground. And down to the ground. Alright, next up on the list is probably going to be the Gravity Cane. The reason why for that is mainly because of the first move, because it Ken breaks and pulls them directly in front of you. So you pretty much have a free setup for just about any combo in the game. With basically any fruit. Like, you can use whatever you want, and this sword will get the job done. Next weapon on the list would probably be the TTK, or True Triple Katana. The only reason this weapon isn't in S+ with the Gravity Cane and Dragon Trident is because those two weapons have combo starters. This weapon, you kind of need to use your fruit or your fighting style to start the combo off. You can't really just start the TTK combo on its own because they can just dodge this, and they can also dodge the first move. So you're gonna have to start with something else. The combos with this weapon are usually pretty simple. You can do the same combo you would with God Human with Sanguine. So like your stun skill, the X, the fighting style Z, fighting style C, TTK Z, and your fighting style X. Just like you would with God Human with the Soaring Beast and the 6-realm gun and all that. It's literally the same thing. And it's just, the weapon just works with both of them. Alright, so next two weapons on the list is honestly going to be a toss-up between the Fox Lamp and the Rengoku. So I feel like some people are going to be confused on why the Fox Lamp is ranked so high, but the stun on this weapon is really, really good. Even if the first move doesn't Ken break, the second move does, which is a dash that just leaps you to them and Ken breaks, and you can follow that up with the first move. They combo into each other, and then they're stuck in that stun, and you can do any number of things from there. Like, this is another weapon kind of like the Gravity Cane, where it's like, you have so many options for combos that it's just like, I don't know. It works really well with God Human. It works really, really well with Sanguine. So I think this weapon, in my personal opinion, is way, way up there. Although I've seen other people say it's mid and say it's like not that good. I think it is. And next we have the Rengoku. And most of you know why this sword is good. But for those who don't, it's really just the insane damage potential that this sword can put out. So, for example, like this move on its own, and then this move is just like it's insane. Okay, so next weapon on the list is going to be the CDK. So this weapon I feel like everyone already knows about, so I'll just display like its pros and cons up here. But simple combo with this weapon. Okay, so next up on the list would be the Shark Anchor. Okay, so the Shark Anchor is really good, specifically with God Human and Sanguine. And reason why is because most of the moves can break, besides like the little spin on the first move, but you can just use your stun skill and then use the spin and it'll be fine. And you have a whole combo. Moving down to the first sword of the A tier, we have the Spiky Trident. So the reason why this weapon's so popular is because it has one of the best combo extenders in the game. Specifically, the second move, because it pulls them right back to you. The sword also has pretty good damage. It's not like the best. Mind you, the sword is still a really good option. It's just that it's not as good as the other swords on this list, so that's why it's ranked at A. Alright, so next sword on the list would be the Dark Blade. This sword was actually my main sword for a while, so I do think the weapon's really good, and the abilities come out very quickly, and there's close to like 0 end lag. The only problem with it is that both moves are cantrickable, so sometimes when you're doing a combo, like, even if you do use your stun skill first, if they don't have their observation on and then they decide to turn it on after, it's kind of just like, well, now you're missing out on like 5k damage. So, despite that being said, it is still one of the best weapons in the game. I mean, most people aren't really going to cantrick your combos, so you can kind of get away with it. But, yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Alright, so next sword on the list we have the Saber. And the reason why the Sabers rank so high on this list is that even though both moves are cantrickable, if you do break their can with your stun skill, the damage of this sword is pretty crazy. It's one of the highest damaging swords in the game, but like I said, even with the high damage potential, it is still one of the easiest swords in the game to cantrick. So next sword on the list is going to be the Midnight Blade. Aside from the sword and its abilities just looking cool, the sword is really good in PvP, but one of the biggest problems I have with it is that both moves are easy to avoid with Ken, which makes it really inconsistent to use sometimes, but it is still a really good weapon and the combos with it do look really cool. You can't tell me this sword just doesn't look amazing. For the last sword of the A tier, we have the Soul Cane. This weapon is probably one of the best weapons for gun mains, specifically for the acid rifle, because of the insane stun it has that also Ken breaks. Like, I'm sure many of you have gotten hit by the Rumble players running this. And while you do need some aim to use the sword, and some would consider this a really skilled sword, it isn't that hard to hit, if we're being honest. And for the first sword of the B tier, we have the Coco. And mind you, while I am putting this sword in B, it is one of my favorite swords to use. And the reason for that is mainly because of the buff this sword gets with control. So in the control room, this sword basically has infinite range, and mind you, that second move Ken breaks. So this sword is probably one of my favorite swords to run if I'm playing control and I don't really feel like playing portal. But nevertheless, it still is B tier. This move isn't too great. It's not bad, but it definitely could be better. And that's the Coco. And for the rest of these weapons, use them if you want to. I wouldn't really recommend them in the current meta, but I still do have to give them credit because they are good weapons nevertheless. But I wouldn't recommend using them in the current state of the game. So yeah, this is the sword tier list for update 21.